I'm reading the first sentence. For all must be done as a sacrifice. All activities must have the one divine for their object and the heart of their meaning. Okay, so very clear. All. First of all, we'll stress the word all. Anything that you are doing, okay, don't think that anything is not important enough for the divine. Okay, everything that you are doing, even the most casual thing. Suppose you are working, okay, walking in the evening, think that the divine is walking with you. Okay, you can go to that extent. As I was saying the other day, I don't remember whether it was here, but if you are riding a scooter or sitting in a taxi, think that the mother is sitting with you. Suppose you are even having a bath, okay, you think that mother is there, you have just seen her and you have come, okay? Everything you must associate with the divine, all. So how important is that all, okay? We could have put it in all caps, A cap, L cap, L cap. All must be done as a sacrifice. Now the second thing is the sacrifice. So what is the sacrifice? You have to do it as a yajna. And what do you do for yajna? You offer everything into the fire. The fire is divine, and that fire will burn all your impurities and it will take you to the purity of the divine. So you have to do it as a sacrifice. So what do you do? By remembrance and offering. First of all, the remembrance. Okay? Then later on, you can add the offering also. If you can do it right from the beginning, even better. So 24 hours memory of the Divine Mother will be there with you. Whatever you are doing, whether you are shopping, whether you are reading, whether you are doing an operation, everything, just constantly associate Mother or Sri Aurobindo with what you are doing. So this is what he's saying. Okay, so why am I having trouble? Just 1 second. Yeah. Yeah, now it's coming, but I have to. Yeah, so all must be done as a sacrifice. All activities must have the one divine for their object. Note the word all activities. Literally, he means all activities. Okay, one divine for their object and the heart of their meaning. It's not only in words, but you must mean it with your emotional being. The yogins' aim in the sciences that makes for knowledge should be to discover and understand, to discover and understand the workings of the divine consciousness puissance. Okay, so this is the word puissance instead of power. Okay, so or Shakti, divine consciousness puissance in man and creatures and things and forces. So we'll have a look at what he's saying. The yogins aim in the sciences. Suppose you are a biologist, suppose you are an engineer, suppose you are a researcher. These are the sciences. Remember that he is discussing the concept of sacrifice in the works of knowledge. Later on he will come to the works of the vital and the works of physical works. Okay, but right now it is works of knowledge, Jnana Yoga. Okay, he is discussing the concept of sacrifice as given in the Gita. He is applying to the integral yoga. Okay, so the yogins aim in the sciences that make for knowledge, should be to discover and understand the workings of the divine consciousness puissance in man and creatures and things and forces. So, see, first of all, man, then creatures, even in the animals, and then man, creature, and things, even in inanimate things also. Okay, you can associate the divine with that, and then forces, subtler forces. So he's going from man, creatures, things, and forces. You have to understand how the divine is working through all these things. Her creative significances. Why is she creating certain things and why is she not creating some other things? Okay. What is the significance of having created this? Where is the significance of having created even things which we consider wrong? What is it? We have to understand that. her execution of the mysteries, okay, how she does the execution of the mysteries. It will be uh, one. We'll just look at one example of it. The Earth is spinning on its own axis. The Earth is moving in around the sun in three ways. Huh? In three ways. First of all, it is spinning on its own axis. That's number one movement. The second movement is it is going around the sun. Okay, that's the second movement. And the third movement is it is tilting on its own. Okay, it is tilting on its own. That's the third movement. And it's very interesting if you see carefully that tilting is the one that creates the seasons. If that tilting on its own axis was not there like that, okay, seasons would not come. So that is what they're saying. The mysteries, try to understand the mysteries of her execution. How is she executing all these things? Okay, so, and very interesting execution. Okay, take for instance the birth of animals. Okay, sometimes she is doing it through mammals. Sometimes she is doing it through eggs. Eggs. Sometimes she is doing it in a pouch of the kangaroo. So many different ways. So these are all mysteries. There is not only one thing. She does what she has to do, nature, through so many different ways. Okay. So the mysteries of her working. Okay. Another thing also, just I'm just think. I'm not talking uselessly. Think of movement. Okay. Think of motion. How many types of motions are there that the divine is creating? Your man walks on two legs. Fine, that's one type of motion. The animal walks on four legs mostly. Can the animal walk on more legs? Yes. The caterpillar or the is working with 100 legs. So see how the divine is working in so many different ways. Can there be motion without legs? Yes, again. Okay. The snake, it is moving without legs. How does it move? The legs become shortened by mutation of cells and they become muscular. And the muscle contracts and expands in a wave-like motion. And then the snake moves. So these are the mysteries. The more we think about all this, the more you wonder at her power of creation. Then there is another movement which also we don't normally associate, but motion of fishes. They are moving without legs. Okay, they do it with only the motion of their tail. Just with the tail, they are moving, and they go any direction you want. Motion is possible even without all this. So how many different types? What about the motion of birds? It is being done through wings. Yeah, so it's so interesting when you think about all these things, how the divine is creating infinitely, not satisfied only with one. Okay, that's the interesting part. We think that our organs, okay, our organs are the only way. Ears are meant for hearing, the nose is meant for smelling, the tongue is meant for tasting. Is that right? Not at all. The divine can use the tongue for something else. For instance, in chameleons, the divine creates a tongue for catching insects. Suppose it is sitting and the chameleon will stick out its tongue more than half a meter and catch an insect. And the tongue is little sticky substance is there, and that's how it feeds itself. Okay? Then what about the tongue of the snake? It is not using for tasting, it is using for the vibrations that come. Okay? And the testing the temperature and testing other things. Constantly the snake is putting out its forked tongue. Okay? Okay. Then what about the ears? You think that the ears are only for hearing? No. In the elephant, the divine has created the ears for cooling the blood. That's why they go on flapping their ears. Now what about the nose? Is it meant only for smelling? No. What about the anteater? Okay, It puts its long nose into the burrows and sucks them out. So you can see the word mysteries of our working, you can understand how. So this is what science has to do. Look at all these things, not mechanically, but how the divine has created. That's what he's saying. Just see that word if you look carefully, okay? The mysteries, okay, of our execution, the execution of our mysteries, okay? I go on.
So Rangan,
Yeah, tell me.
it's an evolutionary process, no?
Yeah, but who is doing the evolution?
It has come.
That is true. But who is doing all those variations? Is it happening by itself? Certainly not. The divine is using the power of Prakriti to do all this in a very conscious manner. But the consciousness is hiding behind the form. Okay? If the consciousness were not there, how would you get all these variations and such meaningful variations? So, what you
It
said
may
just,
be trying to find out the best possible expression, maybe. No, it's not in that sense conscious, maybe. I don't know.
okay, the trying is at the lower level. But at the higher level, it knows very well what it wants to do. Again, if you want to understand this principle, think of at the highest level, there is full consciousness and you know exactly what you want to do. But there is a density as you keep coming down, density. So when that full intention comes down, slowly the intention is, the sharpness of the intelligence is lost, and then you start groping. Just like man gropes, okay, and tries to find things. So what you're saying, there's a truth in what you're saying, Pallu. But it is at the lower level. It looks like that. But behind it is the divine action guiding with its knowledge and full consciousness. You know, I'll give you an image, then you will remember. See the significance of these images, then you'll understand. Suppose there's an actor on the stage, okay, and he forgets his lines. So does the director of the play take a chance? No, he doesn't. So what he does, he puts a prompter in the wings. The audience does not see the prompter in the wings, okay? But he is there. And as soon as the prompter sees that the actor on the stage is hesitating, he immediately whispers the words that he has to use. This is what the divine is doing, constantly whispering the right action, okay? Don't struggle, this you do, okay? This is the explanation of the instinct in birds. They do it without consciousness. They do the right actions. Hello, did you follow what I'm saying?
Yes, Rangada.
Yeah. So
can I say something?
Yes, please.
You know, say you have a very large company with the CEO who is at the head. Okay?
Yes.
So now the CEO is the divine. Now the CEO has charted out a whole program and protocol for the growth of the company.
Exactly.
But as it grows down, he will tell his assistant only little, and that final worker at the bottom knows very little.
Yes.
But it is through the multiple teamwork that the final work of the CEO is done.
Yes.
So I think all CEOs are divine.
Yes, that's
in very metaphorically speaking.
Exactly.
Because he knows the whole plan, but how to execute the plan stage by stage.
Yes.
You even need the low laborers to do it.
Yes, exactly. That's a very good example, which I also use very often. Okay, that's exactly the thing. But I'll add one more thing, Yasmin. Sometimes, and that's a problem of the errors in the physical world. Sometimes the instructions of the CEO, the chief executive officer or the manager or whatever you want, or the owner of the business, when it filters down to the lower levels, it gets distorted, and sometimes there can be a mistake at the level of the laborer. Okay, that explains the errors in man. No? So although there is guidance, sometimes there is error. And why does that error come? Precisely because the communication with the higher is not perfect. That's exactly the explanation. And
Yeah, because person A tells person B. Now, person B will not follow everything what A says. He may plus or minus something. Then
exactly,
C will further plus or minus something.
exactly,
And that is how distortion slowly goes into multiplicity.
absolutely, absolutely correct. That's exactly what I'm trying to convey. Okay, and that is the reason why sometimes things don't work out exactly as it should. For instance, a calf is born sometimes with 6 legs. It happens. It has happened in India. And in the newspaper, all the newspapers splashed that news, 6 legs. How can it happen? Precisely what we are talking about. The instructions have not been given correctly, okay? There can be distortion of the intention. That's the explanation of error in the physical world also. Okay, that's exactly it. In fact, sometimes even in human beings, and there are two doctors here on the panel, so you should be able to confirm what I'm saying. The organs are all arranged in a certain way. The heart is always on the left side of this center of the solar plexus. But sometimes, very rare cases, the thing is reversed. I've read about this, okay? It gets reversed very rarely. So these are the errors that I'm talking about. So the prompter in the wings may whisper the right words, but maybe the actor on the stage is not hearing the words, and so he continues to hesitate, and that's an explanation for errors in the physical world. So what?
But Rangada,
Yeah, tell me.
everything is done with God's will.
Yes.
So even the error is done with the God's will.
Absolutely. Because error has a function. When you make an error, Pallu, now you know the consequences are bad. So now you know that you should not do that which you did, isn't it?
Yes.
You learn.
Yes.
Exactly. Mistakes are meant for teaching you the right way. Exactly. Error also has a very big function in the world. And if error has a function in the world which is easy to understand, you can also understand why evil, perversion, cruelty, also darkness, all these things have a purpose. Because only then will you know what is the right thing. This is in fact, Sri Aurobindo says, error is the handmaid of truth. They go together. If error is not there, how will you know what the truth is? Okay? If you are living in light all the time, you will not know that you are living in light. Only when you experience darkness, like today in the morning, okay, from 5 to 5:30, absolute darkness there was in our place, okay. And I was having a bath, and my God, total darkness. I didn't know which was direction, what happened, where is the bucket, where is the water, nothing at all. I had to go feel my way and get a torch and put. So unless you know what darkness is, you will not know what light is. So that's the purpose. Okay. We discussed. Very interesting when you go into all these things. So this is what science should do. Science should understand that it's not mechanical mutation of cells only. There's an intention in them. That's what. The mystery, the workings, the execution of her mysteries, the symbols in which she arranges the manifestation. This also is interesting. Everything in the physical world is a symbol. Okay. Look at the flowers. So obvious. We won't go into other details, but we'll just go into the flowers. So some flowers have 5 petals. Some flowers have 6 petals. All symbolic of the variations possible to the divine. Okay. Some flowers have infinite number, and some flowers are white, some flowers are red, some flowers are green, violet, all sorts of colors. Each one, there's a meaning in each one. And what mother does when she gives a significance, she goes to the subtle world, okay? She goes to the prompter. not on the stage, but she goes to the prompter and finds out what is the meaning of that flower. And then she gives a name to that flower. Okay, sincerity, okay, frankness. So all these words, okay. Supramental sun, supramental manifestation, okay. Purity in the vital, purity in the mind, so many different types. Each one, she goes into the subtle world and sees what is the symbol that that flower is expressing, and then she gives a name. So we won't go into other things, but each of these things is a symbol. So you have to try and see what is the truth at the highest level corresponding to this symbol in the physical world.
Rangada? Rangada?
Yeah.
Can I add an example of the mother's the symbol, the flower?
Yes. That's
You know
right.
the Korean national flower is kind of a hibiscus. So a certain type of hibiscus, and the name we give in Korean is 무궁화, and 무궁화 means endless endless processing, like a development or something. And I looked up in mother's the symbolic interpretation of hibiscus, and that was infinite progress. So exactly the same thing as we have. Yeah, as we have the meaning of this flower here. So I thought, yeah, that was kind of shockingly amazing for me.
Very interesting, because every country has got their wise people. So the name must have come from someone who is quite wise and understands subtler truths. No? Certainly. And hibiscus, by the way, there are so many different types of hibiscuses and so many different types of colors. No? So hibiscus is one. In India, we usually give the name of power to it. Okay. When it is red, it is power. When it's a beautiful pinkish white, color, then it represents Auroville. Okay. There are so many different types of, some are white. Hibiscus can also be white. Okay. So variation, multiplicity, that is the symbol. So you have seen some flowers which have got hundreds of stamen. Stamen are the ones that keep the pollen. Na? So you have seen the round kadamba, we call it the kadamba tree. It's absolutely spherical round, and all these small stamens are poking out like that. Okay, it's so interesting. So each thing has got a symbol. So when you are doing science, don't think that it's mechanical, but try and understand what is the symbol of. That's what he's saying. I go to the next sentence. So he has spoken about the yogin must know for knowledge, he must look for all these things. Then Srimati is talking about the yogin's aim in the practical sciences. So what are the practical sciences? Okay. Application of physics, engineering, medicine, they are all the practical sciences. Whether mental and physical or occult and psychic. So practical sciences, he is giving you 4 categories. Mental, practical. So which mental activity could be practical? I think psychiatry. No? It could be practical because you are applying it in the practical. Even agriculture, okay? It's a mental because you learn things and then you apply it in the physical world. So it is practical science.
Even physics, no?
Yeah, physics also, exactly. In fact, all these are application in the physical world becomes practical science, okay? So the yogins aim in the practical sciences, whether mental or physical. Physical, you are building a bridge and you need the knowledge of how to build it. You know what happened in Bombay, yesterday? Not Bombay, yeah, Bombay only, Gujarat. No, Gujarat, Morbi. Yeah, a bridge collapsed.
Gujarat, Morbi.
Yeah, Gujarat. 132 people died. So if the knowledge was there and you would have done it in the right way, that would not have happened. So an error was made and now you analyze the error and you know how to do it next time. Or it could have been also a fraud. Sometimes they try to cut corners, the businessmen. So this is what happened, right? So interesting what Sandra is saying. The practical science can be mental, physical, or occult, okay, and psychic. So first we'll discuss the psychic. Mother is helping sadhaks through psychic knowledge, okay. Psychic knowledge. She is helping the others. How does she do that? By identifying herself and purifying them, okay. And then if it's up to us, we remain pure or we fall back into the dirt. That also happens all the time. She mentioned that about her second husband. No? So then what about occult? Sometimes mother has to do occult work also. I'll give you one example of how she did occult work. Okay. There was a man who complained to mother that I came across a man who was who had little occult knowledge, but he's using black magic against me. So mother said, send me a photograph of him. And that man sent a photograph of him. And what I'm going to tell you has been told to me by someone who witnessed what mother did. Okay. She took that photograph in her hand. He was a close associate of mine in the press. So he told me the story. Okay. He was there with mother, and mother took the photograph of that man who was doing black magic, and she became very serious. And when mother becomes serious, a slight trembling in the face, very serious. The eyes become big, and some people used to get frightened. And then she took a pen and put a huge cross on the photograph and threw it down on the ground. Okay. So this is the occult. Okay. So practical, you are using occult knowledge for practical purposes. So Srivastava is so clear. Mental, physical, occult or psychic, practical sciences can be. So
Then what happened to that man?
Then the action stopped. He was free. Mother's disciple was free from the action of the black magic. Yeah. So there you are. So now, the yogins aim in the practical sciences we have read. Okay, whether mental, physical, occult, or psychic should be to enter into the ways of the divine and his processes, to know the materials and means for the work given to us, so that we may use that knowledge for a conscious and faultless expression of the Spirit's mastery, joy, and self-fulfillment. So Srivastava's language, Spirit's mastery, there should be no error. Joy, everything that you do must be joyous. Okay, that's wonderful. It is. Even we should apply that. Whatever I am doing, do it with happiness, and then the work also gets done in a perfect way. Whatever I am doing, whether I am sweeping the floor, or whether I am cooking, or whether I am treating a patient, okay, do it as though the divine is there with you and guiding you, and you will enjoy everything. Okay? Enjoyment is so necessary. Enjoyment is the right atmosphere for everything, because it becomes a happiness, and a happiness is a clarity in the atmosphere. It makes for a clarity. Prasannata is the word they use. Okay, so conscious and faultless expression, and finally self-fulfillment. What you are doing should end most of the time in success. Self-fulfillment. The yogins aim in the arts. So Srivastava has discussed yogins aim in knowledge, the yogins aim in the practical sciences, and the yogins aim in the arts. Should not be a mere aesthetic, mental, or vital gratification, but seeing the divine everywhere, worshipping it with a revelation of the meaning of its own works, to express that one divine in ideal forms, the one divine in principles and forces, the one divine in gods and men and creatures and objects. So now he is going that even the gods, okay, they are also semi-divine creatures, and why is the divine creating them? And men and creatures and objects, even objects. So Srivastava's prose is so fantastically clear. I was just reading an article in the Mother India. We are going to publish that article. Sri Aurobindo was proposed for the Nobel Prize in 1949. You know that, no? And 1949 he was given, and so many Nobel Prize winners had suggested Sri Aurobindo's name. And Gabriela Mistral, I think her name is, Chilean author, who got and she has written also an article which was published in Mother India long ago, and we are going to publish it again. So she says that Sri Aurobindo's prose is absolute clarity, so precise and so wonderful. Okay. So that's exactly what we see here now. See, he's not leaving it, he's giving absolutely all the possibilities. The one divine in principles and forces, the one divine in gods and men and creatures and objects. The theory that sees an intimate connection with religious aspiration and the truest and greatest art is in essence right. But we must substitute for the mixed and doubtful religious motive a spiritual aspiration, vision, interpreting experience. Now this is interesting because art can be religious and it can also be profane. Profane means not religious, let's say secular. Okay? Now, in the earlier days in Italy and in the Renaissance period, most of the art was religious. Think of Michelangelo, think of Leonardo da Vinci, think of Modigliani, think of the Botticelli. Okay, Botticelli is always used to have gods and goddesses, Venus and Apollo and all these figures he used to draw. But then afterwards, it became more secular. Rembrandt, for instance, was doing only portraits of different people. Okay, in India, all the paintings also were, these Rajasthani miniatures, all Radha Krishna paintings. Okay, sometimes also it went to kings, but that is the secular and this is the religious. What about all our sculpture? 90% of the sculpture in temples was all religious. Very rarely is it secular. Even when it is secular, like in Khajuraho and in Konark, okay, there's a symbol, a religious symbol in it. Okay, so that's what Sri Aurobindo is saying. Even that, there is a meaning to it, Sri Aurobindo is saying. The theory that sees an intimate connection between religious aspiration and the truest and greatest art is in essence right. Because even when you are doing, for instance, your Cézanne, okay, the French Impressionists, okay, Cézanne, Toulouse-Lautrec, okay, Paul Gauguin, all these people used to do absolutely no religious theme at all. People sitting in the park, okay, people sitting in a bar, okay, and people fishing, and Paul Gauguin went to Tahiti and he used to put all these things. But there also Sri saying the sense of beauty should be there, and you must try and understand it should not be only a vital satisfaction, it should also be a spiritual satisfaction. This is what Sri is saying. So, truest and greatest art is in essence right. But we must substitute for the mixed and doubtful religious motive a spiritual aspiration, vision, interpreting experience. In other words, even when it is religious, okay, replace religion by spirituality. Go deeper than only the religious motive. For the wider and more comprehensive the seeing, the more it contains in itself the sense of the hidden divine in humanity and in all things. Again, humanity and in all things, and rises beyond a superficial religiosity into the spiritual life. The more luminous, flexible, deep and powerful will the art will be that springs from that high motive. The more you introduce the divine into your arts, the more divine it will be. So that's what it is. That's the difference in music also, no? Indian classical music and Western classical music, and see the modern day music. Absolutely vital. hard metal, rock, jazz, all these things are absolutely nothing of the divine in them. On the contrary. Okay. So this is what he's saying. All the arts must be able to reflect something of the divine. The yogin's distinction with other men is this, that he lives in a higher and vaster spiritual consciousness. All his work of knowledge or creation must then spring from there. It must not be made in the mind, for it's a greater truth and vision than mental man's that he has to express, or rather that presses to express itself through him and mold his works, not for his personal satisfaction, but for a divine purpose. Okay, so I'll read that again. That all his work of knowledge or creation. So knowledge would correspond to all the mental jnana yoga, and creation. Creation is talking of the arts, okay, or even science when you are creating things, no? So knowledge or creation. So this is what he's saying in this para. Okay. So what's the time? 27. We have got about 8 minutes left. So what should we do? Shall we read the next one at the same time? We can do two things. One, I can read out the summary of what he said, or we can read the next one. What do you suggest? Sunki, Yasmin, Shilpa, Pallavi, tell me what we should do.
We do the summary?
Summary, yes.
Okay, so I am reading out the summary of what he said here, okay? Yeah, fine. So, how to make all mundane activities into a yogic effort? This is what he is replying in this para. As I told you, Sri Aurobindo, to understand Sri Aurobindo what he's saying in a para, read the para and then see what's he talking about and put a question to yourself. Okay. So this para, the question would obviously be how to make all mundane activities, okay, non-religious activities, into a yogic effort. How to introduce the divine into all this? How do you do that? That's what he's answering. By doing everything in the spirit of a sacrifice and offering a consecration to the divine in two ways. One, internal attitude. Two, the purpose of action is for the divine, not for oneself or the ego. Don't think that some activities are not spiritual. As I said, even sweeping the floor, okay, and cooking, okay, all these can be. There is a very interesting book. It's called a Practice of the Presence of God. It's a very small book, 35-40 pages, but it's a story of a cook in France, okay, in the 14th or 15th century, and he was constantly thinking of Christ when he was doing that, and he attained a sainthood, okay. So that's exactly what he's saying here. Everything should be done as a sacrifice. You do it for the Lord, internally and externally. You do it for him and not for yourself. So internally, what is meant? Remembrance. Remember the divine and do the work you are doing, and the work that you are doing, offer it to the divine. Internal and external, okay? Then, the purpose of action is for the divine, not for oneself or the ego. So sometimes we get lost in the verse, so sometimes the summaries help. This is what you have to do. And if you do this, everything that you do can be made into a spiritual effort. In the activities of all sciences, philosophy, psychology, linguistics, literature, the seeking of knowledge must be for the purpose of understanding the workings and processes that the divine uses for action in the world, in man, in animals, and in universal nature. All things and events must be understood as symbols of the corresponding higher spiritual realities. Everything is symbolic and try and understand the symbol. Okay, it's a very interesting thing, and that's in our ashram we have very clearly the flowers, the significance of the flowers. Try and apply that to everything. We may not understand, but we can understand sometimes it becomes. For instance, I'll tell you very interesting. I'd like to understand the symbol of Ganesh. Okay, why is it necessary for Ganesh to have an elephant head? And not only that, Ekadanta, only one broken tooth. So there was one gentleman, his name is Sudhanshu something. He's a MP. He gave a very interesting example, an explanation. So this is what we should try to do for that. Everything we should try to understand the symbolism. In the activities of the practical sciences, medicine, engineering, etc., including mental, physical, occult, and psychic. Okay, I have mentioned some of them. For instance, hypnosis, ESP, telepathy, clairvoyance and clairaudience, psychokinesis. Psychokinesis is things that move by themselves without any other effort. Poltergeist, it's called poltergeist phenomena. Poltergeist is a German word. Okay. Man must try to understand the processes, the methods and laws governing these phenomena so that man gets rightful and beneficial mastery over these psychic activities. In the activities of art, the aim should be not merely for aesthetic reasons, mental and vital gratification only, but to see the divine everywhere, to express the divine in the most beautiful forms, principles, and forces. The arts should enable the yogin to see the supreme divine everywhere, in gods, in men, in creatures, and objects. Then, is there any connection between art and spirituality? There certainly is, Surendra says, as everything is really divine in essence. But this is more obviously true for art and spiritual life, since it is beauty and joy that is the core of the arts. But religious motives are often demands and entreaties for egoistic satisfaction. These must be banished and replaced by aspiration, vision, and interpreting experience. The more wide his seeing, the more is the divine revealed in everything. The more wide the seeing of man, the more is the divine revealed in everything. Mere religion then grows into spirituality, and the yogin's consciousness is always higher than that of the ordinary man. It is not the mind that is the source of the yogin's activities, but a vast, deep consciousness. So finally, we can sum up the whole thing by saying, the normal man acts for himself. The yogin acts for and by God. This is what he's saying in this para. Big para, but I've summarized it. Okay. I think summaries do help, because when we are reading towards the end, we have forgotten what he said in the beginning. It's very natural. Okay, so shall we stop today? It's 8:35, exactly right on the dot.
Merci beaucoup.
Au revoir.
Merci beaucoup, Rangada. Au revoir.
Au revoir.